Generally speaking, we can use the word no to replace the structures not a or an or not any. So in a sentence, if you have the word not followed by a or an, you can replace them with the word no. Similarly, if in a sentence you have the combination of words not any, you can replace them with the word no. Let me give you a couple of examples. When we say, there isn't a train until tomorrow, in this sentence we have not a, there isn't, is not, a train. You can replace not a in this sentence with no. So you can say, there is no train until tomorrow. Another example, you can say, she didn't give me any help. Didn't, which means did not, give me any. You can replace not and any in this sentence with no. So you say, she gave me no help at all. So this is the first point in today's lesson. You can replace the patterns not a or not an or not any. You can replace those three just with the word no. It's worth mentioning here that using no gives more emphasis to the sentence, makes it more emphatic. So when you say, she gave me no help at all, that's more emphatic than saying, she didn't give me any help at all. When you say, there is no train until tomorrow, that's more emphatic than saying, there isn't a train until tomorrow. This is also a very important point. And likewise, you can say that no one is more emphatic than anyone. So no one can replace not anyone, and no one will be more emphatic in this case. Nobody is more emphatic than not anybody. Nothing is more emphatic than not anything. And nowhere is more emphatic than not anywhere. Point number 2 is about the word never. You might have never thought about this before, but never consists of the letter N and the word ever. N-E-V-E-R. It's the letter N and the word ever. Actually, the letter N in this word stands for the word not. That's why never is equal to not ever. Okay, so when you say, for example, why don't you ever call me? We have not, why don't, and we have ever, why don't you ever call me? You can replace not ever in this sentence with never. So you can say, why do you never call me? Why do you never call me? So this is the second point I'm making in today's lesson, which is that you can replace not ever in a sentence, in a negative sentence, with the word never, especially that the N at the beginning of the word never stands for not. Perfect. Point number 3. At the beginning of a sentence or at the beginning of a clause, we cannot use the patterns not a, not an, or not any. So these three structures or these three patterns cannot be used at the beginning of a sentence or at the beginning of a clause. And we have to use no and its derivatives instead of them. Let me give you an example. When you say, no force was needed to make them move. No force was needed to make them move. So no here is coming at the beginning of a sentence. You cannot replace it with not any. You cannot say, for instance, not any force was needed to make them move. And you cannot replace it with not a. You cannot say not a force was needed to make them move. However, also to convey the information in its complete manner, in formal English or in literary English, which is the kind of English used in formal situations, official situations, or in literature, you can use not a or not an at the beginning of a sentence rather than using no. For example, you can say, normally in everyday English, you say, no sound came from the room. But you can use not a or not an if your sentence, you want to present it in a literary manner. So you say, not a sound came from the room, rather than saying, no sound came from the room. So point number 3 here dictates that if we are talking about the beginning of the clause or the start of the sentence, we should stick to the word no and its derivatives. However, in formal and literary English, you can use not a or not an at the beginning of the sentence or the clause. Point number 4 is about the noun that comes after no. So normally or in usual situations, after no, you can use a singular noun or a plural noun interchangeably with no difference in meaning. You can say, for example, no answer could be found or no answers could be found. So both of them fit the same purpose or serve the same purpose without any distinction in meaning. But sometimes the context of the sentence favors a singular or a plural form after no, which means that sometimes contextually or according to the meaning of the sentence, you will be obliged to use either a singular noun after no or a plural noun. Let's take a couple of examples to highlight that. For example, I phoned Sarah at home, but there was no answer. Here in this sentence, I cannot say, but there were no answers, because I'm not waiting for several answers. I'm talking about one person here that I have phoned or that I have called, and they didn't respond. They didn't answer my call. So more logically here, we're going to use the singular noun answer rather than the plural answers. So we say, I phoned Sarah at home, but there was no answer. Singular. In another example, we can say, he seems very lonely at school and he has no friends. So here, talking about a school boy or a school student or pupil, normally that school student should have more than one friend. So contextually, it makes sense here to use a plural noun, friends, rather than a singular noun, friend. So we say he seems very lonely at school and he has no friends, rather than saying he has no friend. The last point I want to talk about in this episode is about some phrases with the word no, which are used in colloquial English or informal English or everyday English, right? So I'll give you 6 phrases, 6 example phrases, all contain the word no and all are used in our everyday conversations or dialogues. No problem. So this is number 1. And all of you, of course, are familiar with this. No problem. Number 2, no wonder, which means I'm not surprised. So if someone tells you something and then you answer them by saying no wonder, this means that you're not surprised by what you've just listened to or what you've just heard, what they have just told you. You're not surprised by it. So the second phrase or the second example phrase is no wonder. Number 3, no idea. This means I don't know. So someone asks you a question and you don't know the answer to that question, so you respond by saying no idea or no clue. Both of them have the same meaning and they convey the idea that you don't know the answer to their question. Number 4 is no chance. This means no way. For example, someone asks you, are you coming with me to the party? So they answer by saying no chance, which means no way. It's impossible for me to go to the party with you or to join you to the party. Number 5 is the expression no bother. Bother, that's spelled B-O-T-H-E-R. No bother means I'm not bothered, I'm not annoyed, it's okay, right? So if you ask someone, for example, for a favor or you request something from them and they are okay with it, they are willing to give you that favor or fulfill that request for you. So you ask them for that thing and they say, no bother, okay, I can do it for you. I'm not bothered, I'm not annoyed, I can do it for you. The sixth and the last example phrase in these phrases, which use the word no and very common in everyday English or everyday conversations, is the expression no comment, which means that someone tells you a certain piece of information and you don't have anything to say about it, like because you're shocked, because you're upset, because you're surprised, so you say no comment. All right. All of these are example phrases that include the word no and are used in our everyday conversations. And here we come to the end of today's lesson, which was tackling some special ways of using negatives with words like no, like not any, not a, and not an. I hope it was useful for you, and as usual, I ask you to subscribe to the channel, always interact with my videos through liking it or even through disliking it if you don't like them. Yeah. Also, if you know anyone who's interested in learning English, I'd be really appreciating if you share these videos with them and subscribe to the channel to grow the community, and stay tuned for the upcoming lessons and the upcoming episodes. Thank you very much for your attentive listening. Enjoy the rest of your day, and goodbye for now, my friends.